Join us as we look at Eldfall Chronicles. Hi and welcome to Tabletop Gaming. My name is Charlie and we are the publishers of a monthly magazine on all things board games, card games, trading card games, miniatures and more. If you like things on tabletop, you will probably love our magazine, so you should absolutely check that out. What we're loving at the moment though is Eldfall Chronicles, and I have a 2-player starter set to unbox and give you some first impressions on. So let's jump straight into that. If you've not seen it before, Eldfall Chronicles is a skirmish miniatures game. It takes about an hour to play. We have the 2-player version that is a starter set, but you can play it solo even with this version, and you can play it competitively or cooperatively. You've got choices. And great news, not only are Eldfall Chronicles sponsoring this video, but they've given us a little treat too. If you like the look of Eldfall, you can get 10% off of your purchase on their website. Use the code Charlie10 and the link is in the description. The whole thing is set in a fantasy world and it has sort of a lot of RPG elements. It takes the good stuff out of RPGs and puts it into a fantasy skirmish war game. Of course, a big part of this is always going to be the miniatures, so we'll have a look inside and see what we think. But first impressions wise, what do you think of this box? I like that it's a lot smaller than most starter sets that we see because they can be quite intimidating. This feels quite approachable. I like that we've got this sleeve on the main box itself, but we've got this beautiful foiling included, which is also the metallic continues onto the front here too. We've got some good snippets of artwork that we're looking at, and of course those all-important miniatures are detailed on the back. So we're off to a good start. Now as I open it, I'll tell you a little bit more about it. So you play as 2 of those factions, the Empire of Soga and the Helian League. How you play will depend on what mode you choose, etc, etc, but those are the 2 that you need to be aware of. Once the sleeve is off, let's take a look. We've got some beautiful artwork either side, and then the moment of truth. What's inside the box? So we start with the usual, hey look, there's more to this than it seems, so you can find more on the website. I'll pop a link in the description. We have, of course, the rulebook included. This is what you're going to need to know to be able to play the game. Now, it is admittedly quite a chunky looking book in terms of, to newcomers, this may seem intimidating, but don't panic. There's a lot in here that isn't just rules. It's advice on things like setting up scenery and other bits and bobs. It also, very importantly, comes with an index in the back. She says if she can find it. We've got useful tips, a glossary, we've got information on factions, and of course our index. So there is always an easy way to find the information that you need. And I love on the last page, begin your adventure. But for an opinion wise, I like that it's good quality paper in here because it means that it will last for longer. It's a nice feel as well, it's a soft touch. Moving on, we have a ton of tokens. They are all as you would expect to need for this kind of thing. It will give you things like your line of sight, any damage tokens, etc, etc. We won't pop those out now because there are so many of them, but it all comes included. Then, this is what I like. This is thoughtful packaging and I enjoy it. So we have a custom plastic insert with Eldfall Chronicles embossed in it. That's not the only reason why I like it. It also holds beautifully the 2 boxes for the faction starters. But there's more to it. I'll tell you in a second because I took a sneak peek ahead of time to see what was in here. But let's have a look at what we've got in terms of factions. So we start with this beautiful box here. This is our Empire of Soga box. It is a faction starter. So within that we are getting these guys. I will pull out the miniatures themselves and show you what they look like in just a moment. And then this one is our Helian League. So this is our faction starter here. And again, these are the characters we're expecting to see behind. What I will say is I really like that these are black and white because they are opposing factions in this presentation. They are also quite beautifully artworked. It just carries on that kind of premium feel from the box itself. It also, again, doesn't feel too intimidating. I've pulled out starter boxes that have got sprues upon sprues upon sprues, and there's a fair bit of panic on my face when I see that much. We'll have a look inside and I'll show you how these get put together, what the logic is of what you're going to need to do, but there's a lot that they've thought about here and some really interesting choices made that I really want to talk about. That aside just for now, I just want to show you what's underneath. So we have initially our dice, which are 2 beautiful sets, white and black, but I will say they've got a really beautiful effect on them. So these ones look marbly, for instance, which is just really nice. We then have our cards, which tell us everything we need to know, the bits that we need to actually play the game. And we have an exciting addition in the middle. But just before I do that, the thing that I was excited about with the box is that it's very thoughtfully done. So inside here, we've got a little marker, a little indentation to say this is where the cards go. This is where our elemental goes. This is where our dice go. It's just something that's satisfying and considered. This hasn't been rushed, this has been thought about, things are made to be nice just because they can be nice. We're feeling the good first impression, and speaking of which, we have a monster to have a look at. Now if you're playing cooperatively, you're going to need someone to play against, right? And that is this guy here. Now, although these come non-assembled, so there is some assembly required, you should in theory just need some glue and some snippers and you should be ready to go. There's nothing too complicated, and they are quite pleasingly put together in a sense that you've got everything you need is on there. You'll just need to maybe trim some parts of it to make it a little bit easier. Also, pleasingly, the bases include notches for line of sight. Now, I appreciate this doesn't show you the full majesty of what it should look like, and equally, whilst I have tried to put these together in such a way that I can hold them up so you can see how it will fit, it's not going too well for me, simply because I don't have about 5 hands to hold them together. But impressions wise, I know they use a different material for their miniatures, which I'll talk about as we go through the others. It's pretty robust. It's quite nice. It feels quite nice. It doesn't feel like it's going to break any second. I don't feel worried particularly about these extra strandy bits. They seem pretty hard wearing. I'm not getting the kind of resistance that makes me go, oh, let's not do that in case we break it. I'm semi-confident here. But our scary water elemental out the way, let's open some boxes. We'll start with Empire of Soga. So this is our faction starter set. So in here on the back it explains the different characters we're going to get, who we're looking at in our empire, and we then need to just assemble them. But let's have a look at a few of them. So they come all beautifully separated out for us in little plastic bags, each of them with a base. Now, I am always concerned when I see miniatures in pieces because I am not the best at putting miniatures together. These look quite comfortable to do, in all honesty. There are little notches for where our characters are going to go so that they can live happily on their little stand. We have a stand for each of them, and realistically they are mostly provided with a large figure. This is the Onatoshi, apologies for pronunciation, but he's mostly formed. I will just need to add on the all-important weaponry, which, yes, very fine, a little bit fiddly, but should be very, very effective and really is only, what, 2 points of glue? We should be okay. And quite nicely, that's the same throughout. So I'm going to give you an idea of what these look like, because I think the detail on them is actually really impressive. However, the only one that I think is slightly more complicated is this one. It comes in slightly more pieces, but realistically, if you've ever put together a miniature before, it's not difficult. And if you leave this one till the last, out of all the ones you put together, you will be absolutely fine. Kind of doing something like this. It'll look better when it's glued. Next up is this one. And again, we need to add a few bits to it, but look at the delicacy of those horns, like the intricacy of the details. If I show you the back, look at the back of the clothes. That's a real incredible testament to the detail that is possible with these miniatures, and it's just really impressive. Another weapon, by the way. Need to stick that on, and then stick to the base itself. And lastly, this is the one that gives me hope that it's all very straightforward, because he just needs gluing down and that's it. But again, look at the details of those arrows. Incredible, it's tiny! Now I should probably explain, you are playing as factions that are rivals in the standard 2-player game, and that means that you are trying to gain control of the throne. There are of course other factions available should you wish to expand your game into something else or start playing differently, but this is enough to get you started. That's if you're playing Empire of Soga. But if you are moving on to our friends at the Helian League, you have a whole different set of miniatures available to you. So if we pop this open, we will have a quick look at these ones for you too. Now again, they all have extras that need adding, but I'm going to show you these bits because I think the core of them is in the detail. So for example, this one, look at the detail on his helmet, on his backpack. How truly incredible is that? We also have one, it's slightly more tricky to show you because this one is in 2 parts. We've got our lower part and our top part, but just to give you an idea, we have this guy here. Look at the delicacy of these. I'm just really impressed at how robust this feels. It doesn't feel like I'm going to break it any second, which is frankly quite reassuring. Now the reason for that is the material that these are made out of. Now I believe it is the same material. This is just very cool, by the way. This will attach onto here to make it look very swooshy. This is the same material as what Corvus Belli are using at the moment, I believe, and it's sort of a really interesting material. So this is Unicool, and I haven't seen Unicool up close. This is my first time, which is also why I'm commenting a lot on how it feels and what I think of it, which is just a really robust material. They just feel pretty clean, they feel very detailed, they feel very durable, which are all very good words when you're talking. I'm just going to hold that there. When you're talking about miniatures, because that's kind of what you want from them, right? We want to try and avoid using certain materials that we're less comfortable with, and then pioneer forward with cool new ones. Now I like stuff like this, so I had a look into Unicool. It's one way you can take away loads of the production costs because you don't need to use specific tooling to be able to do it, so you can do much more with less. But I would totally recommend having a Google into how Unicool works, why it's different, why it's important, because it's really interesting. Now, aside from being able to see those in card form with all of our requirements and all of our information included on the back, that marks the end of what you will find inside a starter set. But let's be honest, that's quite a lot. We've got 2 full factions in really nice material that are quite straightforward to put together. We've got 1 large elemental, which is a really interesting one, plus all of our tokens, all of these in our beautiful art, and that luxury feel that comes with the box itself. I often find that wargames and miniature games can be quite intimidating to open that box for the first time because they're either big boxes or they have numerous components and lots of very difficult requirements on how to put them together. This is quite approachable. It feels quite nice. Everything in it feels very pleasing. Nothing feels too terrifying. And all the instructions, of course, of how to put them together are on their website. And I've had a quick look and it feels like something I, as someone who isn't particularly good at the miniature side of things, could easily do. So I would recommend checking them out. But if you like the look of this, stay tuned because we will also be posting a video on these, which is another pack from them that's very exciting to look at. But for now, we will say go have a look at Eldfall Chronicles. I will put the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching and have a lovely day. As always, we'll see you soon.